Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this webinar, another webinar on CRA Standards Unlocked. Today will be about the EN IEC standards to the CRA, the Cyber Resilience Act, as you all know probably. My name is Els, and I'll be moderating the webinar in the background. So, as usual, during our webinar, you're not able to talk out loud. If you can go to the next slide, please. Yes, so you cannot talk out loud, but you can use the Q&A panel that you should see in your Zoom application there. You can use the Q&A panel to submit your questions. The speakers will then have a look at the questions as much as possible. Should your question today be not replied, we will make available a Q&A report so you can have a look later on. We are recording the webinar as well, so we make available to all the attendees today the presentation and the recording as well. Should you be on Twitter X, of course, or on Blue Sky and LinkedIn, CEN and CENELEC are also on these platforms. You can use the hashtag training for standards or standards for CRA, specifically for the CRA topic, should you want to do so. So without further ado, I think we can go to the next slide. I'll slightly introduce you the agenda. Of course, there's a small introduction on CRA standards and the standardization request that goes with it. My colleague will explain you the harmonized standard and how does that work and the technical work and any possible funding opportunities that go with it. Then it's followed by a presentation on the CRA Standards Unlocked from the standard EN IEC standard, as I mentioned before. And we have I'm happy to inform you that we have the rapporteur, Srinath, together with us in the webinar. So together with my colleague, Lucia, we'll do the introduction on the topic. I'm glad to give her the floor as of now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Els, for your introduction. And let's have a look at what we have for you today. So we are going to be talking about the CRA standards and the standardization request. And we want to also, for setting the expectations right, to remind you that our focus as standardizers is to focus on the technical aspects, and we are not going to do a deep dive on the CRA as the legislation itself. We are going to focus on the technical work that we're doing at CEN and CENELEC. So for that, we wanted to use some minutes to explain, if you don't know it so far, what is a standardization request, why it's so important for us, and what are harmonized standards. So standardization requests, harmonized standards are linked together. And it's something typical then for European legislations to have, in some cases, standardization requests associated to them. So after we have received standardization request from the European Commission addressed to CEN, CENELEC, and ETSI, it was accepted by the standardizers of the standardization organizations. And this M606 is the name of the mandate and the standardization request, and it's publicly available. So if anyone can see this document, we will get you the slides later, and you can click if you want in the document or Google it, it will be available. That way you can see what are all of the topics that the European Commission requested to CENELEC and ETSI, and our work is going to be based on these documents and all of the topics requested to support the implementation of the Cyber Resilience Act. For that, we are going to produce harmonized standards. A harmonized standard then is a document, a European standard that is developed by the recognized European Standards Organization. In Europe, we have 3 European Standards Organizations, CEN, CENELEC, that's us today at the webinar, but we also have ETSI, that we have each our own topics of expertise. So that step then was fulfilled. We received the standardization request, and then we have different technical committees to deliver in each of the different topics. We will see a little bit later in the presentation. And we create these European standards, which use is absolutely voluntary. Never a harmonized standard that is mandatory, but it can be of great use. It's a document that contains useful information on how to implement different essential requirements of a regulation. Of course, because the use is voluntary, economic operators, manufacturers, conformity assessment bodies can use these harmonized standards to demonstrate the conformity to a regulation, but they are free to use any other technical solution to demonstrate compliance with legal requirements. So in this case, we are going to show you a part of what we're doing for the Cyber Resilience Act, but it's really whatever we're showing to you here is voluntary, and there are other ways of fulfilling with the CRA. So we also are aware that in the case of the Cyber Resilience Act, there are many frameworks that are introducing, of course, cybersecurity aspects that could be used to fulfill the CRA requirements. But at the moment, there is not one single standard that will fulfill all of the essential requirements of the CRA. Therefore, not only in this webinar, but in all of our webinars where we are showing you the work, you will see that we are either updating documents to try to make them up to date for the CRA requirements, or we're creating for other cases documents really from the beginning to try to then to introduce a way to comply with the regulation. It is important to understand also, it's a very good way of thinking, that the legislation provides us with the what needs to be done, and the standard can provide us one way, at least one way of doing it, the how to fulfill with the essential requirements of a regulation. So this is an introduction for you to know, and this is a little bit of the process that a standardization request follows, and the harmonized standards that are produced after are developed by technical committees. And then finally, they are assessed by the European Commission, and once everything is okay, they are published in the official journal of the European Union, and they can offer presumption of conformity to a regulation. Also, because here we're going to talk about the CRA harmonized standards, we wanted to show you a little bit what standards are requested. We're not going to go into detail, but we're going to link you to the information. How is the work organized in general? If you're not familiar with standardization, what are the timelines? And how to participate in the developments. So for the CRA standardization request, there were 41 topics required to fulfill all of the essential requirements of the CRA, plus also the verticals, the standards that are requested for the important products and also the critical products. So also maybe if we focus here at the left-hand side of the representation, we will see that the CRA has different product classes. We have default class, important and critical products. So we received standardization requests for the important products class 1 and class 2, and also for the critical products. For the default class, there is no standardization request. They can self-assess, and maybe in the future there will be standardization requests. That's not the case right now. For the default class, they can consult what the horizontal standards are doing and then find other ways to comply with the CRA. And for the verticals, important products class 1, class 2, and criticals, we receive the standardization request, as I was saying before. And for this, we're really working very hard to try to develop all of the standards on time. The standardization request looks a little bit like this. It has an annex with all of the entries here requiring each of the standards that I was saying before. We have 41 requests. And together with ETSI, so CENELEC and ETSI, we assessed the standardization request, and we divided the work according to the expertise of each organization. And then each of the entries of the annex, we are transforming it into a work item in our technical committees. And we will adjust everything to try to comply with the timelines and develop the documents on time. In particular, for the CENELEC TC65X, which is the star of the webinar today, they are going to develop vertical standards for the important products. And here I leave you just as a glimpse, because Srinath will walk you through with more detail on this. But this is only one of the DCs involved, technical committees involved. But we see here it's a little bit with a lighter color gray here because it's not the focus of today, but there are other technical committees involved as well in the developments. I'm talking a lot about technical committees, so that's because in the standardization world, the work is developed in this structure, a technical committee that has inside different working groups. And each technical committee and each working group has a dedicated scope. So that allow the experts to really come with their expertise in different topics. We have many technical committees and working groups according to the different aspects that we have in the technical, in the CENELEC or ETSI, and it's possible for experts then to join these expert groups. The standard development is a lengthy procedure. It requires to follow a lot of steps. There are a lot of rules for this, and here is just a very simplified structure of the different steps that we follow. But we go from the proposal, where we simply start talking about the different topics that we need to develop, for example, once we receive a standardization request. And then there is a lot of drafting, there are a lot of meetings for consensus building in the technical committee. Then we go to a step that is named public inquiry, where we can receive comments from the public. And we have there steps to try to consider all of those comments, redraft if needed. Then we have a step for approving the standard, and finally the publication. This lengthy procedure takes time, because we really appreciate consensus, that everyone has a voice. But in the case of the CRA standards, we really want to be on time, because the Cyber Resilience Act enters into application in year 2027, in December 2027. So we would like to be ready with the standards at least 1 year before the entry into application, and that is as well what has been requested to CENELEC and ETSI as a date for us to deliver these standards. So if we want to be ready, the deadline for us is October 2026. So we have been developing a lot of the drafts, and some of the standards will go in this public inquiry stage. This is an average timeline, so not all of the standards will go in November, but if you see this as an average timeline, this is more or less how the different steps in the standardization process are displayed in a timeline. If you want to know how to participate, there is something very important for you to know. We are a members-based organization, CENELEC, and we have members in 34 countries. And your participation as an expert can have place via the national members. So therefore, the first step would be to identify if your organization has European headquarters. If so, then you can identify in which country or in which countries, maybe more than once. So imagine if you are based in France, then you should have a look at the different members of CENELEC and identify your national committee. In this case, France would be AFNOR. In this case, I just took a random member of us for the example, but each of our members, they have a website. So if you go and type do a web search for the member, in this case, AFNOR, you can see their webpage with a lot of information on how to participate in the technical work. And also, there are some funding possibilities for the Cyber Resilience Act. If you have a look at the cyber stand, possibilities there, you can find as well. You could write a proposal for a contribution, and also if your proposal goes in line with the CRA objectives, then you maybe also receive some support, at least for the activities. So thank you everyone for listening to this introduction, and I hope this was helpful. If you don't know about standardization, that can bring you a little bit closer, and that can help you to identify how to join the work via your national members. And with that, these last words, I would like to give the floor to Srinath for the content that we will see today, and we wish you a very nice webinar. Thank you.
Hello, Lucia. Thank you very much for the brief introduction and also on the floor. And I extend a warm welcome to every one of you joining this webinar. And I'm absolutely thrilled to have such a massive audience. And this is my first webinar to have such a big audience, and joining from different parts of the world and tuning in for this exciting session. Lucia, can I share my screen? That seems nice.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. Is my screen is visible?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So with many of you joining us today, we had a fun debate with my family that what made you to that is what is the big draw? Is this the topic or is this a popular speaker? It's me, which had so much of registrations and CENELEC website for this event. So I would like to launch a poll. Just a moment. Yeah, so you can answer this if you can see the poll. Yeah, some of you are really laughing that about the renowned speaker. Yes, I did do some webinars, so I'm popular. Okay. Yeah, like almost 73% of them answered, and it's yeah, and there are 4% are very nice to me that they answered that speaker. Thank you very much. And of course, I won the battle. Like I lost the battle against my family, then I have to own all the credit card expenses for next month, I think. Yeah. So sharing my results. Yes. So it's the topic. That's where we land. That's where we are. Yeah. That's where we are in the topic EN IEC 62443, which is more than 97% very interesting about the topic of this webinar, which is fascinating. 62443 series to CRA. So know your popular speaker now. So I'm Srinath Paidi Narayana Rao. Yes, my name is long. You can just call me Srinath. So I'm based in Paris, France, and I'm originally from Chennai and India. So I proudly announce that I'm the lead reporter for the OT-related cybersecurity activities belonging to the group TC65X Working Group 3 Cybersecurity. As Lucia mentioned, the working groups in the various in this organization. So I also have other role called lead OT cybersecurity consultant at Internet of Trust, which is also based in Paris. And regarding my experience, I'm 4 years of experience in OT, IT, and 5G security, cybersecurity consulting, and 9 years of experience in process automation at Schneider Electric Systems India Private Limited. So I used to design, engineer, commission process automation systems like TCS, PLCs, SCADA, HMI, and so on. So I also hold a senior IEC membership, and I'm certified IC 326443 fundamental specialist. And these are my renowned notable project clients. So I worked with Enoch Dubai, PTT Thailand, Reliance India, Talisman Nazi, ADNOC Abu Dhabi, and of course cybersecurity activities with 5G cybersecurity with Oran and CENELEC for building automation and control systems. This is about me. And I will also want to explain about the group I belong to, so which is CLCTC65X cybersecurity, so which is established in 2020. And this is observing the IEC, ISO activities for the standardization bodies. And this is a group of European mirror for TC65X, which is responsible for development of ISO 62443 series. So this group is now involved actively in adopting the ISO 62443 series to support the single European market, the CRA standards. And of course, it's liaison to JTC 13, WG8, WG9, CRA, and TC 44 for safety nationwide. So the conveners of the group are Judith Rosebo and Dr. Kai Woolen-Weber. So he is in this session. I warmly welcome him. And also I hope he will help me in answering the questions. As you know, I'm the reporter now, Srinath, here for this group. So now, as Lucia explained what is CRA about, so I'm going to just give you a glance of what we really needed in this part. So CRA is about two sections. One is about the specification and the other is about the presumption of conformity. So these are the two things. So the specification says what are the rules to make the product to be available, what are the essential requirements, what are the vulnerability handling procedures, risk assessment things, and what is the rules for market surveillance. And of course, the presumption of conformity is about testing and making the product attestated, valuable, and everything. So the outcome of the specification is going to be the harmonized standards, so which will be published in the official journal of the EU. So manufacturer will refer to these harmonized standards and will presume that the product is conformed. So that's the idea. So it also has other schemes like CSA activities, which is involved for this presumption of conformity. Now we need to know this. We have a new standard, which is also explained by Lucia. What is the harmonized standards? So what is this harmonized standards? So we know standards first, which is the technical specification for promoting good practices, voluntary, normative, informative, and so on. So of course, as you say, it's a voluntary in application, we can apply. And so manufacturers refer to these harmonized standards, as I said in the earlier slide, from the published in the OGU and responsible for assessing the risk and making the product presumed for conformity assessments. So there are many harmonized standards which will be published soon, and this is the outcome of the CRA. Next, we'll see what is the definition of OT. So as per the definition of JAG 26, it says it's a technology for detecting, managing, and causing a change in the monitoring and controlling of the physical entity. So this is the definition of OT. So example, it can be a machinery, HMI, sensors, or advanced control systems like PLCs, DCS, detectors, automation softwares, or embedded computers. These are all part of the OT. So now we are here to apply the CRA specifications to these kind of products, to these OT technology. That's where we are here, where we are here. Now let's find the gap. So we know what is CRA and we know what is OT. Now we have to map it with IEC 62443 series. So how, why we need to map it? Why should we map it to IEC 624 series? There will be many questions. So we know we have to apply CRA for OT products, but why should we map to this IEC series? That's many questions would have raised in many of you. So that's why I think why we are using IEC 624 series is because it's widely accepted already in the market, which is applied for critical infrastructures, industrial environments, and so on. And it has already a mature basis. It's voluntarily accepted by many of the international bodies. And it can rely on the expert community. So we will have the timely available of the harmonized standards easily and based on its mature basis of the development. And also there is a possibility that it can be expanded to other future products. Right now we have some products listed out in the CRA scope, but in the future it can be for other products, it can be broadened easily if we adopt this IEC 623 standards. So that's the idea. We would like to map CRA OT to EN IEC 62436. So those who don't know what is the standards is about, this is the overall structure, its parts and groups. So there are general group, policy procedure, system group, component group, profile group, and evaluation groups. People might have been thinking about what is IEC and what is EN IEC. So there is a difference, right? So IEC 62443 is nothing but an international series of 62443 series, whereas EN IEC is nothing but the European version of IEC 62443. There is nothing much difference, it's just adopted in the European level. So whatever we are going to match and whatever we are going to cover in this session is based on EN IEC 62443 series. And the pattern, the group, the parts are all similar to the international standard. Of course, it has the published version and the ongoing draft versions. So as you can see, the parts and groups or seen. And you can see 6.6-2 is still in progress, and we are drafting it. Okay. So in this, I would like you to remember or focus on the system, component evaluation, and profiles. So we will be coming back what is all about. Okay, so now we are all agreed to match the CRA to the IEC 62443 series. Now let's try to really map the annexures and with our standard series. Okay, so we have CRA, as we know, and it has many annexures. So it has from annexure 1 to annexure 8. As you go in the official journal, you can see it. So annexure 1 is about the cybersecurity requirements, part 1, and part 2 is for the vulnerability handlings, and annexure 2 about information instruction to the users, and annexure 7 is technical documentation. You might have asked, Srinath, why did you not consider annexure 3, 4, 5? Because annexure 3 is based for critical products, annexure 5 is on different topics, and annexure 8 is about presumption of conformity. So right now we have taken the annexures, which is necessary for OT products and specifically to IEC 62443 series. So let's map to IEC 4-1. So 4-1, we know it is a secure development lifecycle, and 4-2 is for the components, and 3-3 is for the systems from the previous slides. So we know 4-1, secure development lifecycle of the component or the product, 3-3 for the system, and 4-2 for the components security requirements. As you know from the annexure, we have requirements, procedures for handling, informations, instructions, how to process, and so on. So all these needs to be in a processed to the 62443. That is, which is 4-1 is the process for the component or the system products. And 4-2 is the requirements for the product, and 3-3 for the systems. As I explained before, 4-2 is going to cover on the essential cybersecurity requirements, where the product is components, 3-3 where the product is systems, and is going to essential cyber requirements as well, and also part 2. And 6-2 is for the evaluation methodology, and 1-5 is the scheme for the profiles. Because as Lucia explained before, we have many profiles for the development of the verticals in the harmonized standards. So that the basis for this is going to be 1-5, which is the security profiles. And to do the evaluation methodology, what is acceptance criteria, what are the artifacts? So and we're going to refer to 6-2 technical specification. So these are the 5 important standards we're going to refer from the series throughout this process. So highlighting them, 1-5 for the profiles, 3-3 for the system, 4-2 for the component requirements, and 4-1 for the life cycle of product and the systems, and 6-2 for the evaluation. So now you can see that we are perfectly matched with the CRA, the requirements of the annexure, and we have aligned our series to them, and we have everything what we need. So we are not alone in this activities. Of course, we have a horizontal group and other technical committees, as mentioned by Lucia before, like the working group 224, 47X. There are other products, other standards are developing with other working groups. So we have a big horizontal team or the working group, which is working group 9, which is working on the Cyber Resilience Act, as you see. And their main responsibility to generate these standards on Annexure 1, general principles, cybersecurity requirements, Annexure 2, part 2, vulnerability handling, Annexure 1, part 2. And of course, you can see about TC65X working group 3, cybersecurity, which is based for operation technology, based on 62443. So the horizontal group, if you can see, the horizontal working group has 3 sections has to handle it, which is 3, which is coming under 3 project teams. It's called PT1, PT2, PT3. So principles, requirements, and vulnerability handling. So these are on the above top level, and the vertical groups has to harmonize with these horizontals. That's the main idea of producing the harmonized standards and working with the groups together. So we have the horizontal, and of course we have the verticals to develop for every products in the CRA, routers, modems, standalones, so on. And of course, we have our specific group, TC65X, which is specific to the OT to develop the standards for routers, modems, switches, all the OT products. So these, yeah. So now we know what is operational technology, what is OT, and the manufacturer will develop and based on the 4-1 cycle, and we have to satisfy the requirements on 4-2 for the base for the products called the components, and for the product ecosystem is for 3-3. So this is the activity of this group for the framework of standardization request. And of course, we have 1-5, which is for the profiles. So which we know we have other vertical products which have to develop the standards. So we will use the 1-5 as the main scheme for developing the vertical standards on this series. So it is particularly is based on a product and is for internet application, operational environment, and context. That's right. So as per the scope of the CRA belonging to OT standardization request as per Annexure 1, we have two types of products, categories, two classes. One is class 1 and class 2. So class 1, we have the line category, we have all these lines. So one is for the VPN, network management systems, security event and management systems, physical and network interfaces, routers, modems, which is used in the OT environment, which is connecting to the environment. And of course, we have class 2, which is more critical than the class 1, which is like firewalls, intrusion detection systems, IPS, and so on. This is now the currently scope of CRA for OT group. And we are in the process of developing these vertical standards. And this will be published in the OGU, which is the official journal of the European Union. So as under 4-1, we have the life cycle in general, and we have 4-2, we have the requirements for the components. And of course, we have all the listed class 1, class 2 products. So which is in the complete scope of the working group. And of course, in the future, we're going to work on 3-3, which will be in the future activities. So these are the work items right now. So we have EN versions of 4, which is currently 4-1 2008, which is available in the EN market, and also 4-2. And now we have to adapt these two documents, right? So because we decided to map with the CRA now. So we have to do a modification for these two documents, and then we have to develop the vertical standards depending on this. So we consider these two documents are the broad verticals, and these 5 are the verticals. So if we are strong, if we know what to do in this document relating to CRA, and we can develop these verticals. So that's the idea, and that's the approach. So we have the conveners who have developed this strong idea, and I love this approach by Kai and Judith, and I will be the reporter to develop these verticals and also help these standards to evolve, these 4-1 and 4-2. So what is the goals of this TC65X? What we are going to do? Now we know CRA, we know the approach, we know how we're going to proceed. So the main goal, we have to use the existing 4-2. So we're not going to introduce new standards, new one, because it's already, we already approved in the market mature basis. We have to use 3-3, and we have to use the 4-1 for secure development lifecycle process, 6-2 for testing, and 1-5 for the profiles. And we have to do the common modifications. So we have the existing 4-1, 4-2, 3-2, and we have to do the common modifications depending on the CRA requirements. And we have to reuse as much as possible. So because the standard is already evolved and used by many, so we can use the existing standards and modify as less as possible so that it can be amended easily and adapted by the manufacturers and the OT environment and the industries. Of course, it can be used in the future. It will be developed by expanded to different products, many products. And you have to limit the potential market disruptions, because if the 4-1, the broad verticals is totally available, the manufacturer himself, it can derive for its own future OT products, which is not available in the scope. So you will not have the unavailability of the harmonized standards. That's the idea. So now we know the approach, as I said, we have EN 624-2 2019. Now we have to do the common modifications and to derive this document, which is called A11 2026. So this is the idea, so which will be published soon, end of September, as I know. It will be for the draft version will be published for the voting and so on. And of course, we have 4-1, which is 2018 available, and it's also will be adopted by common modification, will be A11 document, which is a new version of the document implementing the cybersecurity requirements. So these two documents will be developed first, derived, and based on that, we will derive the 6 vertical standards, which we discussed, class 1 and class 2, based on the drafts 4-2. Yes. So how to progress? So we know we are going to evolve the common modification document. We're going to generate the 4-1 A11, 4-2 A11. So how to proceed? So first we have to do the gap analysis, right? So we have the CRA requirements, and we have the 4-1, the original 4-1 and 4-2. Now let's do the gap analysis and identify what lag for A11 document. So that's the first step. Let's just quickly hands-on practice. Let's do one requirement so that we'll understand what we did actually to generate this A11 document. So this is one of the annexure. I took an extract from the official website. So there is a requirement that's saying that vulnerabilities to address through security updates, including through automatic security updates installed in appropriate time frame, enable the default setting, and easy to opt out mechanism. So this requirement, something says that it has to be an automatic security update, and also the manufacturer can have the user or the manufacturer can have the ability to choose option out. If you don't want the automatic updates, you can able to choose that. This is one of the requirements of the CRA. So now we have to compare this with what we have with the existing 4-1 and 4-2. So we took the requirement and we started comparing with what we have. So we have processes as for 4-1 concern. We have the processes for receiving notification, how to address the security related issues, how to update, how to disclose, and so on, how to do the security update. But we don't have something like automatic updates, which is currently is not there in 4-1. So there is a gap. So this is one kind of common modification we have to apply on the existing 4-1. So there is no process for the automatic update. And similarly for 4-2, we have EDR, NDR support for updates. There is a requirement, common requirement or the specific requirement, but we don't have a requirement for automatic updates. So there is a gap. So we understand there is a gap from CRA to IEC 62443. So then the next step would be to address the gaps. So from 4-1, we are going to generate a new document to implement this gap, which is going to be A11 document. Similarly, for 4-2, it's going to be A11 document, step 2. So as you say, this is the original version of 62443. There is no original version. We have included a common requirement. There is a section called support for updates, and we have included the requirement enhancement, which is support automatic updates. So this requirement has the RE requirement is added to the existing one, which is in the A11 document. Similarly, for the process, we have a sum6, which is basically the existing we have only for sum5. So we have included sum6, which is support for automatic updates, which is a process. It's a practice. It's one of the processes in one practice. So deriving to A11 2026 document. So now we not only do the mapping with CRA to find what is gap, we also need to harmonize with the horizontals, right? So PT1, PT2, and PT3, such that we generate the harmonized standards. So PT1 has its own deliverables, like what are the risk assessment principles. So we took the essential factors and we matched with the 4-1 requirements, and we checked is there any gap in 4-1 processes. We identified it. So we try to match the differences, gaps, and update in the common modification. PT2 is about the essential requirements. So 4-2, we took the common, all the requirements from 4-2. We took the processes from PT2 essential requirements and tried to map. And of course, PT3 mapping for vulnerability requirements. So is about the vulnerability handling procedures. We try to match the clauses and everything with 4-1. What are the vulnerabilities? Are we having any gap with them? We find the gap analysis and we try to match and we implement them in the common modifications. So we match with CRA and we match with the horizontals in such a way that we are aligned with everything and we don't miss anything missed out. Yes. So the next topic, so we have covered everything. So there is also like few factors additionally which is implemented, which is asked by the CRA. So which is called the applicability. So it is based on CRA article 13.3 for any product and scope. So this is the article. So I would like to pinpoint what is actually said. It is about the risk assessment that is applied for the products based on intended purpose. This is a keyword. It's an intended purpose, personal use, condition to product with the digital elements, and also based on the requirements. Point 1, relevant product, applicable to the relevant products. So CRA says that for any product which needs to be indicated that what is the intended purpose and what is the capability, what is the technical capability that can be used, that whether this requirement is applicable to this particular product or not. So this is taken seriously considered in this developing of this vertical standards on also broad verticals. This is a big topic, but I'm going to give you a small intro, and also me and Lucia is planning on a deep dive session. So you will get more visibility on this topic in the future webinars. So, but I'll give you some light on what is the approach and what is it. So this applicability assignment is on the intended use, as I said, and on the security context, and also is based on the technical capability. So let's define what is this intended use. So as we define, it's use of which the product is defined by the product supplier, describing its explicit and implicit assumptions about the product probabilities and capabilities. So what is the intended nature to be used of this product? So for the main important note is this intended, the product security context, which is practice 2, if you remember from the 4-1, is derived from the intended use. So if you know the intended use, you can derive the product security context where it is used. Let's do an example, to be understand more. For example, we take an intended use, an unmanaged switch, maybe an Hirschman or some switch on an unmanaged switch which does not have any filtering, which is going to just send the traffic. There is no any advanced cybersecurity requirements or algorithms. So what is the intended use of this unmanaged switch? This equipment is intended to switch all the Ethernet traffic without any filtering management. So this is the intended use, if you understand. And let's do what is technical capability. So we have the requirements and we have the applicability, and we say whether this is applied to this requirement is applied to this product or not. So it's based on the technical capability. For example, if you take a wireless use control, this is one of the component requirement in 4-2. So we are going to check whether the product has a wireless interface. In that case, this component requirement is applicable. This requirement is applicable to this particular product which is having wireless interfaces. For example, you can also take a mobile code, whether the product to provide a load to execute this code, whether it can be remotely downloaded, continuous monitoring. Similarly, we can take an example for system backup. Does the product have any information to backup or restore? For example, if you take, if any Schneider folks are here, if you take Schneider Triconics, they have a battery backup with the power shutdowns, the program downloaded from this backup. So this one kind of, whether this requirement is applicable to this particular product. So this is the idea of these two things. So intended use and technical capability. Of course, there are many procedures and steps involved how to arrive this and how to derive and how we are going to get this. It's a big deep dive session. Definitely, I will encourage you to register for this, which will be in the future, how we arrived and what are the steps we followed to come to this position. Right now, I would like you to remember that there is a feature in the standard that says that applicability. So likewise, for example, you can see there is a requirements CR1. So requirement saving about the authentication of the human users. So you can see an applicability criteria, this requirement for each external interface is capable of human user access. And if you see, the intended purpose is the authenticating the human users on the technical capabilities, the external interfaces. So you can see the applicability requirement for this requirement is applicable for each external interface capable of user access. So when the manufacturer develops the products, they can easily refer, okay, whether this requirement is applicable to this product, to our product or not. It's easily understandable from the standards. That's the idea. And next, I would like to cover on the evaluation approach. As I already said, which is 62443 6-2 is going to be the evaluation methodology for 4-2. Because as CRA says, there's a presumption of conformity and how the manufacturer has to assess their products and acceptance criteria, whether they are matching the exact skill level, what are the artifacts, what are the acceptance criteria, what are the evaluation process, methodologies. So all these will be developed or drafted in 6-2 and which will be adopted for 4-2. So if you open the standard in the future, you will see there's an applicability section as we discussed in the before, and we have an evaluation section for each. So what are the methodology, what are the artifacts required, or how you conform, and what is the acceptance criteria? For example, if you need to satisfy SL2, whether what are the updates, whether this is satisfying. So this is one of the requirements we discussed before for the automatic updates. So if you say the updates are automatically downloading or not, if it's downloading, then this is satisfied. So SL2 is satisfied. So all these are covered under 6-2 security evaluation methodology. And these sections will be for each and every requirement which is not there in the existing standards. So this makes the manufacturer to develop, design, apply, evaluate, and match to the CRA requirements easily and without no gaps. And we have done maximum amount of work to ease the job of the manufacturer to adopt the standards, and still trying our best to make it easier. Yeah. So next, today, tomorrow, and future. So we have, as I discussed, the international level, we have 4-2, 4-2. This is only example for 4-2 standards. So 4-2, and as I said, we also adapted to the European level, which is EN IEC 64-2. And of course, in the national level for Germany, for example, they have EN IEC 4-2. As per the CRA deadlines, so we adopt this IEC to develop this this standard. So EN IEC to 4-2 to A11 document. So currently we have already this document. So now we are doing the common modifications to bring the A11 document. Of course, this also will be updated. So 4-2 in 2026. And the idea is also to propose this A11 document to the future, to the IEC international, because even the international manufacturers want to put their product in the European market. It will be easy to adopt this standard to bring them here. So it will be adopted to the future proposing, or it will be future to the European level, or in the future to this Denmark, in the Germany, DIN EN IEC 64. So we don't know the future, but currently we have this common modification document, which is adapted and defined by the group, bringing this document to accessible to everyone sooner, and the draft will be published by end of September. So this is the deadlines. So for the broad verticals 4-1 and 4-2, the A11 documents is ongoing and completion by September 2025, and we will do all the first initial drafts. Publication is planned on December 2026. And also next, based on this, we have to derive the verticals, so like firewall, VPN, SCM, network management. So it will be starting soon after the first draft, from October 2025 to March 2026. It's the drafting process, and officially should be published by November 2026. So as informed by this, the average publication date. So we are trying hard to achieve this date. And And it's for you. Now we are also do the call for experts, because as I'm responsible, I'm a reporter for the working group. I need experts to derive this to derive these vertical standards. I need the expert ideas, suggestions to build these standards. Give your suggestions on your products, technical capabilities, and so on. So we have already published this call for experts, which is under this TC65X, and we are looking for the experts on VPN, SCM network management, physical network interfaces, internet and switches, firewalls, and so on. And its deadline is 3rd October. And as Lucia said, there's also funding is possible, and it's already open. You can contact me or Lucia for how to apply or the procedures. But basically this comes to your national committee, as she explained how you need to approach to part of this group, part of me to work with me to develop these vertical standards and contribute to the CRA community. So this forms something that looks like this: first name, last name, your email, and the work item. The work item is nothing but the product which I've listed before. Which work item you're interested in supporting our team. So this is it. I'm happy that you take an interest and do this. And it's time for questions. So you can ask. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Rinat. There are a number of questions in the Q&A. We have been trying to answer some by typing. So if you would like to have a look, I would like to present the last slide, and then I think my colleague Els will present a poll, and that I think will give all time for you to have a look at the questions. So a final slide for you today. I hope you can see my screen now. This is as to say thank you to ESME and NEFTA grants that we have that is making the Stanford CR projects possible. These grants are very important because they support the work of the rapporteurs working at CENELEC and ETSI for all of the 41 deliverables on the CRA. And these grants support also dissemination and stakeholder events like this webinar we're having today. And also, if you want to know more of all of the standards we're developing, we leave you here the link to the website that we have together with ETSI as well, where we have all of the information centralized, and we try to keep it as much as up to date as possible. And as I mentioned at the beginning, expert funding is available at cyberstand.eu if you want to take a look, but also mind that you need to then become a member of one of our national committees, as it was explained at the beginning of the webinar, and also by Srinat, that you can also, if you are already a member, you can then take part and let know in which work item you would like, in which work item and in which topic from the ones Srinat presented, because we are looking for different experts. You saw how much work is needed for the different topics. So don't hesitate to review these slides in case you find useful information to join the work. Els, are we ready maybe to share the poll in the meantime?
Yes, thank you, Lucia. I will launch a feedback poll. It's a short poll with a few questions that we would like the audience to reply, just in order to improve our webinars for the future. So if you could just take a few minutes of your time to reply, that would be wonderful. Thank you. And maybe just also for the audience, a small reminder, as I mentioned in the beginning, we will share with you the presentation and the recording later this week. We will also make a report available with the Q&A. It will take a bit more of our time, I think, to make that, to complete that. So you will be informed once that is available as well.
Right. I also want to have a look at the questions. I'm not sure, Srinat, if you're ready to select any question. And also, Kai, I know you are following also. So if you would like to take the floor at some point for any of the questions, just go ahead, please.
Yeah. Some questions I can answer live, I think, Lucia.
Yes, great, thank you.
I try already in parallel also to answer questions.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Kai. I would like to answer to the question Maria Cristina Bringeli. It's about the automatic updates. It's not too risky to implement in the ISS environment. Hypothetically, it's an update block in the production process. It will cause a great impact. I was also like you. It was surprising to me update when I was joining in this group. This automatic update is really because I worked in a critical industrial environment. But CRA gives an opt-out option. So if the manufacturer doesn't need, can still opt out from the updates. And these updates are not critical. And however, updates are always done on the risk basis. So these automatic updates, you can use it something which are not considered as risky, or that, and there is no any timeline for it. These kind of updates, and still they have an opt-out option. So nothing to worry about. That's it. The next question is Thomas Mossad. When will the harmonized standard for ISO 62443 will be available? Is this possible before 2027? As Lucia, I think you are answering this question, so it's okay. Yeah.
Yes, so indeed, we are going to try to have the standards ready before December 2027, and actually the date of entry into application of the CRA is already December 2027, and would be actually much better for manufacturers to have the standards available at least a year before. With all the work that is being done so far, we are still hoping that we will be ready by the end of 2026. And this is as well in line with what has been requested by the European Commission. And the deadline for standardization request for the European Commission for us to have the standard ready is October 2026. So we are doing all what is possible to keep this deadline as much as we can. I hope the question is answered. For Thomas Moss, sorry, I didn't specify.
And my next question is Ricardo Fiorelli. Hi, thanks for the interesting and in-depth overview. Is this work aligned with HC work on similar same products such as modems and network interfaces? Very good question. Yes, we are aligned with HC because HC focus on the complete device, critical devices, but whereas we are focused on the OT side, as we understand from the presentation. So we are aligned with the HC team, and we are coordinating with the reporters and to do this work as much as possible. Yeah.
Lucia, Srinath, can I make a comment?
Yeah.
Yes, please go ahead.
Because I see a lot of questions in the Q&A regarding, is a product A in scope or not in scope? I think this is clearly out of scope of the discussion and the presentation today. I think it's fully understood there are questions regarding this, but this is something what has to be identified by the manufacturer and is not in scope of the standardization activities. Therefore, please bear with us.
Yes, thank you, Kai. That's a very good remark as well. Anything related to the specificities of the CRA also is not our field of expertise. There is a question regarding, and then there were many questions actually, trying to understand what is the role of the broad vertical and to what extent, it's a question by Tim Scherer, and then to what extent it can be used to claim partial presumption of conformity for the default class. So I'm not sure, Kai, there if you have maybe an answer, or Srinath.
I think in general, formally speaking, it's only a presumption of conformity when the standard is the respective standard is cited in the OJEU, and therefore there is no something like some kind of that you can rely on this one, formally speaking. So, but for sure you have it gives you more guidance that you fulfill the requirements and the CRA, but formally there is no presumption of conformity for this one.
Exactly.
From a formal perspective.
We cannot tell you this will help you up to 80% and the remaining 20% you will have to do it at the default class particularities. This will depend really on how the harmonized standard that we are producing here will, let's say, solve some of the aspects on how to implement the essential requirements for your product in particular. And then it is expected that you have to build on top of that as well. Srinath, have you identified any interesting question that we have missed?
Yes.
In the meantime, I would like to say it is good to highlight as well that as it was shown by the presentation, it is good to really highlight the role of these product-specific standards that were shown by Srinath, for example, the ones on firewalls, routers. And then it is good to also understand that this broad vertical can be used as a part of or complementary of the product-specific standards, and then together those, for example, can offer a full presumption of conformity.
Maybe I have two questions on this one. There's one from Fabrizio Cirilli. I hope I pronounce it precisely. Given the planned integration of 62443 into the 27K family, I mean, this, I don't know where this rumor comes from, but currently this is not envisaged. And there is another question or comment from Peter Häuptle regarding which 62443 standards are planned being published listed within the OJEU. I hope that the presentation from Srinath clarified this. First of all, it's the main focus is on the 6 vertical standards, but nevertheless, what we try to achieve in Working Group 3 is also that the so-called broad vertical standards like the 4.2 and maybe in the future the 3.3 also get cited. That's what we try to aim for. If we will be successful, this is currently unclear, because this would also cover and address the expectations on those products which are neither important or critical. So all the other products. So therefore, everybody would like to benefit from a presumption of conformity with such a citation of the general 4.2 and maybe the general 3.3 in the future. I think this would be very, very beneficial.
Yes. There's one, Lucia, maybe you can help me to answer this. The broad vertical will be published in December 2025 or 2026. So as we said that, and as per the timeline, it should be this year. And so for September, we'll be submitting the first draft to the HAS consultants, and then it will be formal voted and when will be published by this year. So right?
Yes, I think that's correct. I'm checking also here with Guy. I think we expect, there was also a question about that indeed, when we expect to have the first assessment. We start first with the broad verticals and then we build the product specific ones, the verticals. And is that correct, Guy, that the first time that we will let the HAS consultant have a look at our draft is either at the end of the month or in October? Can you remind me, please?
It's currently planned for October.
Okay.
That they have a first look at this one. Yes.
Yeah. I think this also answers the question of Thorsten Richer, if I pronounce correctly. Is there a timeline for the public draft of 4-1 and 4-2, as answered by Kai now? So for the end of September, we'll be submitting to HAS consultants and it will be available after that.
No. And I think the issue with this one is we cannot be really much more precise on this one, because we also we have to ensure, the interplay between the horizontals getting developed in JDC 13 Working Group 9, that we are aligned with them. So therefore, there's an interdependency, and as you can see, there's a lot of activities currently going on.
Lucia, I think, will draft EN standards be made publicly available? to review, comment?
There is a platform that has been developed, and this is to support the European Commission on these facts. I don't have at this moment the details of the platform, but yes, there is a discussion around this indeed. There was another question about I lost it, I'm so sorry. It is about the red delegated acts, and if they are going to be repealed once the CRA is enforced. It's not really the topic of the webinar, that's why we didn't put a lot of emphasis here. But in general, as a general rule, for a standard to be cited, there needs to be a regulation in force. So perhaps it will be also the consequence that when the red delegated items are repealed, that then also the standards are going to stop being harmonized. But for this, I don't want to give you the more details because it's not clear to me at the moment. I think, yes, Rina, sorry, I think you were going to say something.
No, there's nothing related to that. That's fine. Yeah, I think one more question I would like to answer with Ami Saha. Kai, correct me if I'm answering to this question correct. Is there a specific stream or category for building automation and control products? As you know, so building automation and control products are also belong to the OT category. And there is also a discussion for the ISO 62443 to change the term IACS because it's also used in the BACS environment. So there is no any specific stream or category for BACS for now.
I think we have managed to answer more or less everything. So perhaps, and we can start to have the final words of the webinar. Just checking quickly with Kai and Srinat if there is anything else you would like to clarify or a last question that you would like to answer. Perhaps I missed something. Otherwise, we can close for today.
I think there's an important question. Kai, maybe you can help me. Armin Schools, what product category from the CRA would you consider an industrial PLC? Would you rate a PLC as an important component, class 1 or class 2, or would you think PLC is a standard product as the CRA?
I mean, this comes back again to the question. I think this is currently out of scope in here. But as a personal remark, currently the PLCs, please take a look what is written in Annex 3 and Annex 4. If the core functionality is one of those, and then the manufacturers come to make their own conclusions if it's in scope. Otherwise, you would give legal advice.
All right. Then thank you. I would like to give the floor to my colleague to close the webinar officially. And then from my side, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Lucia. Thank you, Srinat, for the overview, and thank you, Kai, for the additional support. I think it was quite helpful. Many people were connected today, so I'd like to thank them as well for submitting their answers to the poll. I think that would help a lot to have a look afterwards. As promised, the presentation and the recording will be made available as soon as possible. And for those questions that were not answered, we will make a Q&A report available so you can have a look at your ease when it's available. You'll receive an email in any case when it is available, so don't worry if you don't receive it. It's not available yet, let's see. So thank you very much, everybody, for following, and have a blast with the upcoming CRA future. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.